Glad to welcome here on behalf of UNESCO and on behalf of our International Institute. I'm joined by some colleagues at the Institute, including Lily Bosen, who is down caring about everything. I think that Julia, yes, Julia is over there as well. So thank you for your contribution. Now, this event, oh, this is me. I don't need to see myself. Please delete me. Okay, no. This is me. Yeah, I think I was younger. Well, this is an event co-organized with the United Nations Office for South Cooperation, which is actually the location, which is located where we are having this meeting. So this is really an indication of how important this topic is, not only for the UN system and for member states, but in particular, the specific, I would say, tonalities that it may have in the context of the global south. And this is precisely the emphasis that I'm going to give to this conversation as it unfolds. But let me start precisely by giving the floor through a pre-recorded video to my colleague, Dima Al-Khatib. Dima is the director of the UN South-South Cooperation Office. And just for you to know, Dima is a sustainable development professional that has, she looks younger as well in this picture. It looks like we're all in the election period. Okay, but believe it or not, Dima has more than 25 years of leadership and management experience in several duty stations of the United system. In the last 4 years, Dima has been serving as the UNDP, the Development Program of the United Nations, as resident representative in the Republic of Moldova. And prior to that, she had several positions, including Program and Policy Coordinator at the Regional Hub in Jordan, the Deputy Resident in Kuwait, the Deputy Country Director in Libya, and many others. Dima holds a Diplôme d'études approfondies in environmental health from the Lebanese University and French University of Bordeaux, and a Bachelor of Science and a teaching diploma from the American University of Beirut. So if technology if technology allows, I would like to get her recorded behind, please. It will come.
Dear partners, dear participants, colleagues, and friends, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you at this ECOSOC Youth Forum event on greening higher education and bridging SDGs 4 and 13 through SDG 17, South-South, and Triangle Cooperation. I express my thanks to the UNESCO International Institute for Higher Education for organizing this event together with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation in collaboration with the UNESCO Sustainable Development for Youth and Student Network and the National Geographic Learning. In a word, grappling with the profound implications of climate change and environmental degradation, the need for immediate action has never been more urgent. Our collective response to these challenges must be prompt, decisive, and inclusive. It should harness the vast pool of knowledge, expertise, and experiences from the Global South, while also ensuring active participation of young people in every area of society. The achievement of SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 13 on climate action represent the global community. According to UNESCO's 2020 Global Education Monitoring Report, 258 million children and youth were entirely excluded from poverty as the main obstacle to access. Climate change poses significant threats to ecosystems and human well-being, particularly in developing countries. Due to global warming in 2022, more than 2.3 billion people are facing water stress, and almost 160 million children are exposed to severe and prolonged droughts. Based on recent data, sea levels are also rising at an extraordinary pace. Seas are predicted to rise 1 foot by 2050, and up to 216 million people could be forced to migrate by then, largely due to drought in combination with other factors including water scarcity, declining crop productivity, sea level rise, and overpopulation. Bridging these goals requires strategic partnership and collaboration across geographic borders, which can be facilitated through SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals, and as part of it is via South-South and Triangle cooperation. SDG 17 offers a framework for fostering partnerships and mobilizing resources to address interconnected challenges. And by promoting knowledge sharing, technology transfer, and financial support, South-South cooperation can facilitate the exchange of good practices and innovations in education and climate action. This approach enables countries in the Global South to leverage their experiences and expertise to develop and co-create solutions that address local needs and vulnerabilities. It is within this context that UNESCO and UNOSSC piloted an initiative on greening higher education, promoting the role of science, technology, and innovation in SDGs impact through meaningful youth engagement and leadership among the South-South University Cooperation Network. This pilot initiative is supported by our Global South-South Development Center projects funded by the Government of China and aims at fostering technological collaboration, capacity development, and innovation across borders to address the pressing challenges. At its core, this initiative embodies the spirit of unity and partnership that underpins South-South cooperation. It also presents a forward-thinking approach to leverage combined strengths of universities, youth, and institutions in the Global South to drive positive change and sustain growth. By forging partnerships and strategic alliances and promoting meaningful collaborations through a Southern University network, we aspire to empower a new generation of leaders and innovators. These young people will be equipped with the necessary knowledge, skills, and values to navigate the complex challenges of our time. Through this pilot network, we also aim to establish a dynamic platform that empowers youth to actively participate in technological innovation and policy discussions. This initiative also fosters people-to-people connections and builds trust across the diverse communities that it serves. Moreover, this pilot initiative represents a transformative approach to international cooperation. By focusing on South-South and Triangle cooperation, we are redefining the traditional notions of development assistance. Our goal is to promote a more just and inclusive global community that spans geographical borders. In conclusion, I sincerely thank you and thank the partners, supporters, and participants for their unwavering commitment. And as we join forces on this transformative journey, I'm confident that we can overcome the challenges that lie ahead and navigate a path towards a brighter, more sustainable tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, I'm pleased to say that this initiative that Dima has mentioned, the network of universities committed to greening higher education and to sustainability, will be launched very soon. We have already 12 universities in the Global South, in all the regions as defined by UNESCO, and all of them are very prestigious universities with dedication to research as well. So we think that through this network, we will be able to attract more higher education institutions from the Global South and create from this network really a wide coalition in the Global South for sustainability. Now, let me proceed now that the presentation by my colleague Dima has already been done. Let me proceed with the first panel. And I'm going to invite, first of all, Dr. Elina Tanninen. Okay, let me just introduce yourself. Professor Tanninen works as the Sustainability and Responsibility Coordinator at the University of Helsinki in Finland. She's driving initiatives to embed sustainable practices throughout the university. She specializes in coordinating climate efforts, developing strategic sustainability goals, and enhancing community engagement. And by doing so, she brings expertise from her background in social sciences and consumption research. The rest. Elina has also accumulated valuable experience working in various educational institutions and organizations, and she is particularly interested in co-development and leveraging effective communication and collaboration among stakeholders. Professor Tanninen, as a sustainability and responsibility coordinator in one very prestigious European university, can you please share from the key universities and challenges that the University of Helsinki has experienced in driving environmental initiatives and establishing sustainable partnerships in this field? I think that the key word here is partnership. The University of Helsinki is doing an excellent work. So please, Professor Tanninen, the word for this use.
Thank you. Not yet, at least, Professor, but thank you for that.
That's a promotion.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. First of all, I think that I need to state out loud that I speak from a privileged perspective. I come from Finland, I'm based in Finland, and I speak on behalf of the University of Helsinki. And for the context in Finland, the higher education is free for students to participate, and students also get benefits for their studies. So that's the ground rule that I'm speaking from. But I could present a couple of different kind of opportunities that University of Helsinki has experienced. Actually, 3 different opportunities that I can note. First of all, sustainability as a strategic priority area can make a huge difference. Committed leadership and committed rectorate can create a positive change when it comes to let it be concrete actions or the funding or the chosen priority areas of the university. I think that there is this kind of trickle-down effect from the leadership's priority areas that can create different kind of action plans on the university level. I think that their actions on sustainability issues has been more visible at the University of Helsinki. After a couple of years back, we renewed our strategy, and sustainability became one of the 4 strategic priority areas at our university. And as an example of our committed leadership at the University of Helsinki, we have one vice rector responsible of sustainability and responsibility. And also in all our 11 faculties, we have one vice dean responsible for sustainability and responsibility. And also these people are the ones that can enable environmental initiatives and also the sustainable partnerships to grow. But second of all, you already mentioned the cooperation with different stakeholders, and that is a key. Couple examples of that. First of all, our innovation activities at the University of Helsinki, they unite researchers, teachers, students, and also companies to make an impact. Bringing students and researchers together with business partners, for example, can make the research more impactful. And that's our goal as a university. And I think that university's job is to create platforms for this to happen, for these innovations to grow as well. But also when it comes to cooperation with different stakeholders, I think that also other universities and other cities as well, nationally and internationally, can boost each other into the right direction in environmental initiatives, and there's also possibilities for fruitful partnerships in there. In our case, University of Helsinki has really close connections to the city of Helsinki, for example. We have this one shared goal to boost environmental initiatives in the capital of Finland, which is Helsinki. We participate in different kind of national and international networks, just to mention Una Europa or LERU or Climate Universities networks. And these networks are really good places for open discussion and co-learning around different environmental initiatives. I think that universities always compete with each other in a certain way. But in sustainability-related issues, we have this common, shared, bigger goal that makes the co-learning and developing beneficial. And another example, which we just discussed with you a couple of minutes ago, is this Congress that we will be hosting on the coming June. The name of the Congress is Sustainability Research and Innovation Congress, which is named to be the world's biggest event on sustainability research and innovation. There's background organizations that are Belmont Forum and Future Earth, and the hosts are University of Helsinki and University of Aalto, which is also located in the capital region of Helsinki. But last but not least, of course, I think that as a big organization, we have to notice that we have a big impact. And we also need clear guidelines for partnerships, because these guidelines also provide a way to influence. For example, University of Helsinki has a community of 40,000 people. At the same time, we are a big investor, we are a big real estate owner, and we do a lot of procurement as well. So it matters what kind of partnerships we create and what do we require from our partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elina. Really, I mean, you finished with a question, and I think that this question is really something that we will be floating around today's discussion. It's not only what structural changes you have. You mentioned, new positions, dedicated positions at the university, and also the partnership, in particular, with the city. But also, I think that last point about, what values, as a matter of fact, inspire your decisions about partnerships are really, really important. Now, I'm going to move, and I'm going to invite now the PhD candidate. Not professor yet, but yeah, you'll make it, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Mr. Moazzam Syed, okay, is a doctoral researcher at the Technical University Dublin in Ireland. He focuses on the Internet of Things, and the digital Earth twin for the SDGs. He addresses data quality issues for environmental monitoring and climate change to complement the SDGs. Quite an important task, I would say. Beyond academia, he has devoted already a decade to social development and education sectors, particularly in Pakistan. Through the Walkway School, he has facilitated education access in rural areas, sending thousands of children to a school. Moazzam is also the co-chair of Education for Sustainable Development Working Group at the UNESCO, a member of the family, at the UNESCO SDG 4 Youth and Student Network. He's also an alumnus of Youth Collab, the US State Department Exchange alumni, and recipient of multiple international awards. It's really an honor to have you here. I would like to ask you, you work on data quality issues for environmental monitoring and climate change. What key opportunities and challenges have you encountered at the institutional level when trying to drive such important research?
Thank you so much for such a kind introduction, and thank you for having me here today. Now, this is something that we were also discussing in the morning, that data quality is an issue for SDGs implementation monitoring. It would be not wrong if I say that global stakeholders are encountering the same challenge as they were facing during the early days of Millennium Development Goals, a dearth of data quality, which again impacts the effective implementation monitoring of these global goals. Findings from the voluntary national reviews process have time and again unveiled this incurring issue, the lack of suitable data, or the way we see it, fit for purpose data for whatever you want to complement, to populate the SDGs indicators for the efficient monitoring, particularly those related with environment. Majority of the countries, as well as global agencies like UNESCO, UN, and all the affiliated agencies, grapple with inadequacies with their statistical institutions. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, there are a number of reasons behind this, and one of which is lack of understanding Liaison, partnerships, as you both highlighted, across institutional level, across sectors, particularly between academia and institutions on which these global decision-making institutions rely on. The inability of statistical institutions across the globe to do what's needed, and their inability and lack of interest to establish partnerships with academia in particular to help address these poor quality, data quality issues through research and development has led to an availability of suitable data to complement the decision making behind addressing these pressing issues, particularly when we talk about climate change and environment. Now, I come from Pakistan. We have had some very nice, I'd say, in a sarcastic way, years of floods, which covered almost half of our country. So what happens? What happens is we only get to know when our home is going to flood when the flood actually happens. So we only figure out that, oh, there's the water at our doorsteps, and that's because the global stakeholders are unable to take decisions since they have no data to rely upon. So what happens then with the decisions that are taken to address these critical environmental and climate challenges using poor quality data is that stakeholders, particularly public, young people like us, or even people like you, the trust in those institutions is lost. So what happens then is the SDGs agenda stands hollow in front of the public because the decision making and the process affiliated to that particular thing is not based on a transparent process. The same way an accurate patient data in health sector ensures their long-term health benefits, our planet also needs an accurate and high quality data to be greener and healthier and to support the decision making around this space as we are talking about. And I'm sure our colleague from University of Helsinki would also agree on that, that universities and sectors across the world heavily depend on data to make the policy changes and the policy shift. And those are things that can't be brought in if the evidence behind that is lacking, it's standing. My research at TU Dublin is actually focusing on how we can create high quality environmental data that can complement SDGs related to environment. This will not only help partners across Europe and beyond in creating high quality data, but it will also help our partners and people all around the world how to manage the data to be high quality beyond its creation. I think we'll all agree on this point once again that we can only enable knowledge sharing. You can only share the knowledge through your reports at UNESCO IESALC if the data behind, the evidence behind that is strong enough. And it can't be done if you are relying on a data which is very poorly curated. So in conclusion, I guess these aspects present not only challenges but opportunities. It's a coin, either side of the coins. Higher education institutions like Technological University Dublin, University of Helsinki, and a lot of other institutions see these challenges as opportunities. Higher education institutes like Technological University Dublin and research, as well as practices observed and conducted at these institutions, have proved their potential every single time. And I guess it's time to bridge in that gap between those higher education institutions, research sector within those areas, and global institutions, statistical institutions in particular, so that the gap would be bridged between SDG 4 and SDG 13. And once again, higher education institutes, I guess, out of all, we all would agree to this point that higher education institutions are at the heart of leading greening agenda for a sustainable world by 2030. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Moazzam. Thank you. Thank you. I think that many of us wish that your work was done tomorrow. Because we need those.
I also do because I have to do my defense.
You see. No, but it reminded me of one lesson that I was given the first day when I started as a student at the university. They said in political science, they said, the professor or non-professor said, if you cannot assess it, you cannot manage it. Okay, so I think that that's a good point. Now, let me turn to one of my colleagues. I'm gonna give the floor to Bosen Lily Liu, who is at UNESCO at the Institute for Higher Education. She is the head of partnership and UN liaison. Lily, as we call her at the Institute, has been leading consensus making among multiple stakeholders and promoting shared international agendas in areas like transforming education and now greening education. She has been the mind behind the South-South Cooperation Network of universities, and I'm really glad that she is working at the Institute. Really. Oh, that an acknowledgement of the importance of your task. So, Lily, I'm going to give you the floor because I have a question for you. You have a long-standing experience in, despite you are very young still, but you have a very long-standing experience at multilateral level. May I ask you to highlight key opportunities and challenges through UNESCO's experience in working with higher education institutions, particularly in driving environmental initiatives and creating partnerships in greening higher education? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pedró, and thank you so much, audience, for the welcome. Really an honor to reflect based on what Elina and Moazzam just explained on the institutional efforts. I want to share a couple of not only initiatives, but really the vision and mission from UNESCO. And I want to add on to what Moazzam just mentioned about SDG 4 and SDG 13, and add another factor of SDG 17, because partnership and really joining hands and working together towards what we believe is the only way that we can achieve it. So with that said, I want to first share that at UNESCO we have this greening education partnership, which at this moment we have more than 70 countries committed and on board in moving forward with 4 pillars of activities that can be concluded under greening education. And for us at UNESCO ECOSOC, we have contextualized the 4 pillars to specifically mobilize the strengths and the functions of higher education. The number 1 pillar, mobilizing the teaching and learning function of higher education, we have greening teacher training and curriculum, because we believe that higher education has the capacity to drive systematic educational changes across different education levels. And the only way to achieve it is we need to strengthen teacher training education, and we need to make sure that when teachers graduate to become a real teacher, to be put in classroom, they know how to integrate greening concept into their curriculum. And number 2, mobilizing the strength of research at higher education level. We have created this education greening STI, science, technology, and innovation focus, to know that research can support with providing the evidence, support with providing the design, and of course, providing with realistic plans in implementation. And number 3, mobilizing the very specific function that highlights higher education's role apart from other education level is really the community and industrial engagement. And building onto that, we have greening jobs and skills that we hope every student graduating from higher education will be an element of change. Whether they start their own thing through entrepreneurship or they join another company, at least they will have this mentality of greening, so that wherever they go, whatever job they carry out, whatever fulfillment they want to contribute to societal impact, they know that they should put SDG 13 in front. And that's something that can only be achieved through SDG 4. Last but not least, mobilizing the institutional management and leadership, we have created a pillar of greening higher education institutions. So with that said, I now want to really highlight the great vision that not only our office, but really enhance with our UN Office of South-South Cooperation to create this pilot project promoting the role of science, technology, and innovation in SDG impacts through meaningful youth engagement and leadership within the framework of South-South University Cooperation Network. This is really I don't want to say first time, but one of the very first times that we see the Global South should really get together in this greening perspective instead of just following the very traditional model of North-South cooperation. And within this pilot project, promoting young people's engagement and leadership in designing STI solutions, in transferring STI solutions, and more so in transferring those STI solutions across contexts, we're hoping to support through our interagency cooperation on an STI bootcamp, ensuring that the intergenerational approach well used at the leadership, student putting at the leadership, professors, university managers, and university researchers are also engaged in bridging the gap and finding the middle ground for realistic solutions. And that will be followed by working group activities and roadshows to allow exchanges among higher education institutions from all four regions of the Global South. To already start exploring the transferability of greening concepts, of greening solutions that are created by universities. And following that, we're gonna host a global forum that we hope everyone here will be able to join us so that we have more partners engaged in supporting higher education institutions, students, and professors and management in achieving this overall goal of greening higher education. And last but not the least, as what Dr. Pedró has always mentioned, we need to drive evidence-based policy transformation. And the only way we can do it is that we need to show success stories. We need to show the theory of change. We need to show how things are done. So multilateral cooperation, we really need to bring the element of partnership into SDG 4 and SDG 13. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me close this first segment, I would say, of the discussion. We decided to open not reminding us of the many challenges that we have, but rather looking at ways and avenues that would really signal possible pathways. And we have seen here, examples of cooperation with the immediate community, the city, the importance of partnerships, the relevance of having critical data, and finally, this multilateral perspective. Now, we're going to have a second segment, and in this second segment, we are going to share some success stories, if I can say so. And I will start by the person next to me, Mr. Erik Gundersen. Mr. Gundersen is really, well, I'm really grateful for you being here because you will understand why. Mr. Gundersen has probably lots of things to do because he is the National Geographic Learning Global Partnership Group leader, which is the group is a center of excellence for delivering ministries of education projects around the world. Erik has worked in Europe, Latin America, Asia, and the US as an English language teacher and P12 publisher, business development executive, author, teacher. So I mean, you are a qualified voice. He has managed successful publishing projects for Vietnam, Malaysia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Egypt ministries of education. He has held teaching positions at the American Language Institute in Lisbon, Portugal, at the University of California, Berkeley. And last but not least, let me share with you that Erik has a master's in education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education and BA honors in art history from Williams College, both in the United States. Erik, it's really a pleasure having you here. And you probably work on greening everything, in particular education, on a daily basis. That's the business you run, right? Can I ask you to provide us with some recommendations on effective ways to work on greening higher education and transfer of green science, technology, and innovations for sustainable development? Whatever thoughts you have, related to what universities could do, would be really interesting.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. If I could have the first slide, yeah. We'd like to just share with you 3 recommendations we have for bringing greening principles to curriculum. The first is very simple: integrate the SDGs into content and teaching methodology. This is from a grade 6 English and science program. Alexander Graham Bell was one of the founders of National Geographic. and he said his goal was to showcase the world and all that is in it. We hope that you see echoes of Alexander Graham Bell's work in this project here, right? This young lady has studied SDG 14, Life Underwater. She's connected to the National Geographic project of Pristine Seas, which is about removing as much of the plastic as we can from the oceans. And she's presenting to the world her world map of water. If I could have the next slide. So teacher in university education programs, people often ask us, but do you at National Geographic, do you have a framework for creating climate change lessons? And indeed we do, and we published it recently actually with the International Research Foundation. And there are 8 key elements that we recommend teachers include in their lesson designs for climate change. I'll just touch on a couple here. The materials really need to be language rich. Students need to understand the environmental crisis, and most importantly, they need to talk about their feelings about the environmental crisis, right? Eco-anxiety is real. Another recommendation is to make climate change lessons optimistic. We want to present positive models of change makers, and this is what will inspire students to be more excited, I think, about diving into climate change lessons. And the materials need to be local. So whether students live on a mountaintop or in a city like New York or by the coast, the climate change lessons that they find in class need to relate to who they are and where they are. Think of the next slide, Julian. Second recommendation is to inspire students through local and global exploration. We have one of our National Geographic explorers here today, Dr. Serena McCalla, who will be speaking a little bit later. We believe that in curriculum, materials should be both mirrors and windows for students. So mirrors, they see themselves, windows, they see the rest of the world. This lesson is from a career skills program in Egypt. We are the partners of the Ministry of Education for helping students think about what their lives might be. Egyptology, archaeology, those are very important topics in Egypt. And so lots of students are training to be archaeologists. But archaeology is very messy. It has a devastating impact, or can have, on the environment. This is Albert Lynn. He's a global explorer, and he uses a variety of virtual archaeology tools to help make the least possible impact on the environment. So by providing this window into the world, bringing an explorer into Egypt, having him work with many of the Egyptian explorers we worked with and archaeologists, we create this sense of mirrors and windows for students. And then the final slide, Julia. The third recommendation for bringing a reading approach to curriculum is helping students impact their community. We want our curriculum to really lift off the page. We want students to be able to engage in the communities to make change on the climate front. We had an amazing opportunity last year when the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Education approached us and said, National Geographic Learning, will you be our partner for a project we want to call Big Green Lesson? And this Big Green Lesson was about every child, every university student in the Emirates making their own personal sustainability pledge. So it could have been something as simple as being the plastics ambassador for your family, right, in terms of recycling. So we worked with the Ministry of Education. We created a series of lessons that we'd be very happy to share with you. Those lessons introduce people in a very simple way to the SDGs, to the work that COP does, and then how do you go about making the sustainability pledge. And we're delighted that 100,000 Emirati students and university students made pledges. We met actually Lily at the COP conference in Dubai. We had a chance to really sort of compare notes there. And about 2,000 of the students who made pledges came and joined us at the Education Pavilion. So super exciting. Many of the ideas that I've just briefly touched on are in this publication. It's called Climate Change Education. We've co-published it with the International Research Foundation. I've included a QR code up here. I have some copies here for anyone who'd be interested. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share about National Geographic Learning today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I still recognize the teacher that is in you, living in you, I think, because it was really impactful, effective. Thank you, and very interesting, by the way. Now, let me ask more or less the same question to someone who brings quite a different perspective. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Oweis Al-Salahi. Oweis is a passionate advocate for sustainability and youth empowerment. As a youth advocate with Education Above All, well-known foundation, and founder of the SDGeneration network, complicated to say for me, and an ambassador for the Friends of Nature program, always brings experience and dedication to this field. He integrates sustainable development goals into policies, pioneering youth-led initiatives. The network, the first UN youth-led good practices initiative in the Gulf region, reflects his precisely innovative approach. Always actively engages in high-level youth negotiations, advancing inclusivity and sustainability. His efforts, from raising awareness to advocating for improved policies, aim for a better, more sustainable future, amplifying youth voices globally. Always, you can bring to us a completely different perspective, maybe a more, I would say, student-based perspective or youth-based perspective. What would be your recommendations for higher education to really move forward in terms of bringing their practices?
So I'd like to begin by thanking the organization and the partners. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having us. My name is Al-Salahi. I'm the founder of SDGeneration Network. I'm going to start off by talking about my own initiative, SDGeneration, which was a dream of mine that I had when I was 16 years old. This dream came as a result of a museum trip that I had in the UK, where I witnessed climate action, the effects of climate action in front of my eyes. And I'm more of a visual learner. I like to see results, or I like to see the effects happening directly in front of me. That's how I become convinced. That's how I like to go back home and come up with my solutions and talk to my peers. SDGeneration came out of a passion for sustainability, a passion for wanting to amplify the voices of Arab youth, wanting to introduce sustainable development in the Gulf, and actively pursue paths towards enhancing sustainable development. On the side, I'm also a youth advocate with Education Above All Foundation, one of the partners of the program. Education Above All has a program called Reach Out to Asia that directly contributes to what SDG 4 and SDG 13 was established back in 2005, and has since introduced programs that helped over 2 million children and youth in more than 60 projects in 21 countries globally. And in January 2023, the strategic review basically updated to be more inclusive of climate change as a major challenge, curtailing the successful achievement of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. So going back to Dr. Pedró's question on how institutions can become more greener from a student's perspective, I'm currently in my final semester of university, and as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm more of a visual learner. And I know a lot of people in this room like to take knowledge in different ways, but I'd like to shed light on how youth like to consume education. And I think it's great for us to have National Geographic here to listen to how the youth like to consume education. Me personally, I like to look at visual content. So I appreciate bite-sized videos, TikToks every now and then, podcasts, or very, very short pieces of information that go directly to the point and tell me exactly what the issue is and how I can contribute to the problem. And that's what I envisioned in my own initiative, SDGeneration, social media platform that amplifies the voices of the youth throughout small interactions. So it can be comments, it can be reposting stories, it can be polls, or contributing to competitions that we host online through minimal interactions. So something that I value is when academia is combined with visual learning. I think that's very important to do, and I think it's very important to study and to localize sustainable development when it comes to specific areas of focus. So, for example, SDGeneration in the beginning started as a virtual youth-led platform, and then later on started to enhance into more of a global platform. Every continent that we would focus on, we would always look into the sustainable development goals. We would always look into the agenda and the mandates and try to localize them as much as possible. We would look at the stats of how do youth consume educational content in that region or in the continent, and then we would localize our programs. So, for example, Ferouz over here prefers more academia. So she likes to see more research, more stats, more writing. And me, on the other hand, I prefer to see things moving on the screen, things with a bit more color and less text. So from a student perspective, I would say that institutions, specifically educational institutions, should focus on embedding experiential learning opportunities that expose the youth to real life results of climate action. For example, looking at my experience when I went into that museum and I saw a huge container of water being pumped constantly, and it was basically an indication of showing how many liters of water were consumed within the day. This actually fazed me. It made me want to make a difference. It made me go back home and talk to my peers, talk to my colleagues, and we launched a green initiative at the school at the time.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Well, the third contribution in this panel will come from a colleague, also from the United Nations system, Fabio Friscia. Fabio works at UNICEF, the sister agency in the UN system. He works as a global youth manager and supports youth engagement in UNICEF programs, particularly on climate change, education, and protection at global level. His area of interest includes building capacities of young leaders on advocacy and strengthening the youth organizations, developing tools and standards for youth engagement, providing technical assistance and capacity building to UNICEF staff in these matters, and building partnerships with youth-led organizations. Fabio, UNICEF and you in particular have had very relevant experience in greening education, particularly in schools. I'm glad to say that UNICEF is not yet in the higher education arena, so this is still reserved to UNESCO. I would like to compete with UNICEF when it comes to that. But nevertheless, I think that there are many lessons that we can learn from UNICEF's experience in contributing to greening schools in particular, to be transferred to higher education. What would be your recommendation in that respect?
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you here. Very impressive panel. Very intimidated by a few panelists. But I'm so glad I wasn't speaking directly after you, at least that. Yes, UNICEF is the children organization. Our mandate is going to be very strict. Ends up when the person turns 18, and then we hand it over to other agencies. For what concerns our experience, it is amazing as I think any of us in just the last 5 years have boosted our work in more specifically, as you suggested, in primary and secondary education. I would say that many of the efforts that we are promoting are somehow in the lines of what National Geographic type of approach is. I also would like to add that we are, as much as possible, also trying to integrate not only curriculum that helps children to understand about climate change, but also linking to a comment you made in the previous session, what we need is not only people who are ready for tomorrow's job, green job, green entrepreneurs, but also active citizens who can do a difference in this context. In this sense, I would like to elaborate further about fantastic experiences that we have, but I would like to be a little bit more controversial because I'm not sure what we are doing is sufficient to get humanity out of this crisis. So I'm going to elaborate more about a few things that I think as a collective intelligence in this room, we can consider, putting more attention. Probably it goes along, but I would like to put a little bit more context. The situation is exceptionally dire. The carbon budget is nearly over. We need to turn off the engines tomorrow, by 2030, if we want to have some hope to stop heating behind 1.5 degrees. And we are totally off track. What we are doing so far, most of things that we've been discussing, as far as I see, I'm being controversial, I think this is a safe environment. I don't see, including UNICEF work, I don't see this is sufficient to keep us under 1.5 degrees. Just a few pointers. The carbon emissions that we're negotiating in Paris are completely underestimating what is needed. You probably are familiar with the problem of the methane, which is being liberated by the Arctic and Antarctic seas. We don't know how much is there, how much is being liberated. Data. Oh my God, we need so much data. We know it's bad. We know it was not calculated, it's not estimated in the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement objective that still we're so far away from achieving. There is let me say that, collective hysteria around green solutions. As Greta Thunberg said, we are not going to be able to recycle our way out of the crisis. We need much more abrupt and powerful way out of this problem. And very final point, I think the most important. It is, for what we've seen so far, it has been impossible for politicians to win election if they're not able to promise endless economic growth that has put us in this situation. So we need a collective effort of all the parties represented here, of the university institution, to help us find solutions around these sort of things. So research, data, absolutely. What I would like to put on the table is that we should not only think about technical solutions, about how to be more efficient, how to pollute less in producing, how to recycle plastic more. There are fundamental questions that we need to be able to answer, and we are far from it. Let me start with an easy one. As a consumer, shall I eat a biological avocado that was produced in the Latin America, or shall I eat a pesticide-full avocado, tomato that was produced in Pennsylvania? We don't have answers for that. Economic explosion, the development of economics in the world has been made possible by, academics and researchers. A few years ago, Adam Smith, who were able to create models that are very clear. If one outcome makes me gain $1 more, I know I have to go for that one outcome. If is that $1 enough? With climate change solution, we actually don't know much about it. So we need so much more research from the tertiary sector, from university, around these sort of things. Similarly, how does human brain works around this crazy situation? This dysfunction that we have. We keep living our life in a very polluting way, and yet we know that this is not sustainable. What is working? What is not working? We don't have answers around these things. Social media. The saddest story of humanity, to me, is that when there was, and here I'm being very controversial. When Obama won the election, it was amazing how social media was leveraged to support Obama campaign. And progressive people thought, oh my God, we got it, we're gonna win forever now. Because social media was about creativity and hope and mobilization of power that were being dormant that far. And then Trump came. And social media was trolling election of Trump, and he won. So many questions, so many problems that are being created. And finally, the role of young people. There is a very dear imbalance between the fact that innovation in humanity is going faster and faster and faster, yet we don't have faster and faster and faster slides for young people to help humanity fix these problems. Greta Thunberg. Greta was 14 when she started, but Greta was Swedish, a privilege, like our Finnish friend here. How many Greta Thunbergs can give a contribution to humanity, but they are not having the same opportunities that Greta is having? And I'm talking about tertiary education here. I'm talking about those amazing leaders that are not needing a secondary education despite their age. They need some slides to achieve leadership role quick enough in humanity. I'm gonna pause here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you. Thank you for these inspiring and controversial words, Fabio. I would like to ask you further questions as we unfold the panel. But your speech has been the perfect transition to the, I would say, the third segment, which is the last one of this panel. Because you mentioned the importance of contributing to equipping youth and in our case, higher education students with skills and competencies to really drive this so much needed transformation. So I'm going to suggest another round, starting with Professor Tanninen, okay? Because this is going to be about what can be done to ensure that from the perspective of higher education institutions, we contribute to equip youth with the required skills. Now, any examples from the University of Helsinki that you can share with us that would be maybe, paving the way for a different way of dealing with this important? Elina? Yes.
It's my turn to feel a little bit intimidated after that great speech there, but I can try to give some concrete examples from the university point of view. Well, sustainability education is a key. I think that it's quite obvious to state that in order to be able to engage and lead the sustainable partnerships, there needs to be knowledge. There needs to be knowledge about the crazy situation that we live in that Fabio just described well for us. But what does it mean in a concrete level in our case? How do we develop sustainable education? How do we offer that for our students? First of all, the sustainability issues are linked to all educational fields of University of Helsinki. They are added to the learning goals of the students. All the students need sustainability competencies and general knowledge, for example, about the planetary boundaries and about the ways that they can have an impact. So in concrete level, we provide a sustainability course for all our students. The course is also mandatory in many of our educational programs. Also, in addition to these generic sustainability skills that all the students need, there is a clear need for more discipline-specific sustainability education that enables students to take action in their own field of expertise. And that is the reason that we also provide the students with more specific sustainability courses, more discipline-specific sustainability courses. And when it comes to sustainability education, I think that it's many times forgotten, but it should be noted that also the staff members of academia, they need education on sustainability issues that are all the time changing, and there is new knowledge that we can gain. So the academia needs education as well. And that is the reason that we provide also the staff members of our university sustainability courses designated for the staff members. But second of all, we also need to offer platforms to engage and form sustainable partnerships. That's the university's job to do. In order to get good ideas and initiatives to grow, there needs to be space for the people to take action, to engage, and also to influence. On a concrete level, what we do at University of Helsinki, we have a sustainability and responsibility network that brings together students, staff members, and also the alumni of University of Helsinki. And the goal is also not to keep the students separate and the staff members separate, but to bring them together. We also have a network called Teachers for Sustainability. So for sustainability education, they can co-learn from each other. We also provide sustainability funding for staff members and students of University of Helsinki to take concrete action, to work on a daily activities of the university as well. In addition to that, we of course organize lots of open events for our own university community, but also for the wider public. And last but not least, as one concrete example, we offer different kind of innovation activities and platforms for co-creation. As an example, we have this Health of Co-creation Lab that brings together businesses and other stakeholders with students that are writing their master's theses on topics related to sustainability. So we try to provide really concrete platforms to form partnerships and to really develop sustainability action forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lini. Very clear, and I think it's an excellent example of what higher education institutions could do or are already doing. Now, let me turn back to Fabio again. But this time, Fabio, please be more positive if you can. No. I mean, it's your right to be as critical as needed. But this time, I'm going to ask you more about precisely what kind of skills, what kind of competencies, and how to do that based on your experience in education. Let's go.
Thank you very much. I will be more propositive.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I was thinking as I was, mingling in with the previous session and now this conversation, a few points. Also, I happen, as many of you, I happen to be a university student myself a few years back, very recently. One thing, again, Francesc, your comment at the beginning, not only green entrepreneurs, but engaged citizens. Traditionally, I think that all the part related to social engagement has been relegated to more the social studies. Those who study social sciences or, literatures or art, while the technical types of orientation are more dedicated to hard numbers. I think we don't have the luxury of that anymore. I think that it should be explicitly built in the curriculum of all universities, filling this gap of technical studies to create a generation of leaders that has both the social engagement and the technical, let's say, numerical excellence. A beautiful example, I think we have, which is medicine. So in medicine is not only technical, but at the same time we have an entire domain, which is public health, where it's not, the accumulation of health on one individual, but the entire society, trying to deal with the dilemmas that you need to deal with. Shall I invest my $100 to save this population from cholera or that population from, I don't know, malaria, just making them up. Another beautiful thing that medicine has is the oath. I mean, at least in Italy, when the person graduates, they make an oath, just like the UN staff make. That anything they do will be for the betterment of the health of the individuals or society in general. This is a beautiful example of a university that not only is technical, but also have a very deliberate, strong social dimension. Another element I would like to add is another thing that has been niche so far and should not be niche anymore. There have been unbelievable challenge that humanity has addressed and solved and won against all odds. As I mentioned before, Martin Luther King in this country, or Nelson Mandela in South Africa, Gandhi in India. These things all look just normal to us, but think about the challenge they were against. It's unbelievable they succeeded. Now, what I learned is that not only these people were impossibly charismatic, but also they actually had a very clear plan. They had a script, which is studied, which has been written, has been used, including in recent examples as civil movement brought down Milosevic in Serbia, just following the scripts of these three leaders I just mentioned. These things are a totally minoritarian domain. They don't receive enough attention. They don't receive enough financial support, enough brain bandwidth. I think these are exceptionally critical things that universities should be more deliberately looking into. So my message is for any university, technical university, which is studying how to create more efficient solar panel, I think this same university should channel their resources to also look in a scientific way, data-driven, about what are the drivers of social change, how can social movement, how can young people create social change against when odds are against them, when time is not available, when carbon budget is needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, I'm going to turn to Oweis again, because Oweis can bring us the perspective of someone who has also lots of experience in non-academic institutions and as a youth activist as well. So, Oweis, what would be your recommendations?
The tight on time, so
Don't worry.
So I want to shed light on what previous peer just mentioned about marginalized youth, youth that don't have access to the resources and opportunities. I want us to all take a moment to look around us and to realize that we're all very privileged to be in this room, to have this opportunity here, but we need to keep in mind that there are a lot of youth that couldn't make it here today, that have much more ideas than us, that are way more qualified than us in so many ways possible, and we need to shed light on that. One of my suggestions, going back to Dr. Pedró's question, is the role of engaging with civil society organizations and corporate entities and making sure that we are more inclusive of marginalized youth that don't have opportunities. Even though we will face so many difficulties with physically bringing them into the room, we can do so through virtual programs or programs that we can introduce through collaborations. One of the programs that I'd like to shed light on is the program in collaboration with Education and the World Foundation and the British Council in Pakistan. Pakistan Youth-led Leadership Initiative, which was announced earlier on last fall, and is expected to be completed by November 2026. The themes of this program focus on educating marginalized youth in Pakistan on climate education, providing them with opportunities to go through a training program that's introduced by the British Council and Education for the World, and also take a few bits and pieces from UNESCO's framework on climate action. This program is currently operating in 80 public universities, 30 CSOs in Pakistan, and has increased over the time. It focuses on the aspects of community development, climate actions, and sustainable development green skills. And this is a program that we're very proud of and looking forward to seeing wonderful results. And just to mention that Pakistan is the 5th largest country in the world and has the largest generation of young people ever recorded in national history. 27% of them are aged between 15 and 29. And the youth demographic is wonderful. Like I've had the chance to work with a lot of youth that are very bright-minded, very focused, and they all deserve seats at this table.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that. Well, I think that I will put the end to this third segment. We have seen many different avenues, so to say, to promote the much-needed change. from informal work, from the perspective of specific higher education programs, and also a particular case of a university. Now let me turn to my colleague Lily and hand over her the responsibility of leading us to the very end of this session.
Thank you so much. A very heavy Mac, very heavy responsibility. But well, we hope, well, it looks like at least from the room, everyone has been really enjoying the conversation. And we hope it's the same for our dear audience over Zoom. Now we'll move into an open discussion, really engaging our audience to see if you have any suggestions or any insights moving into greening higher education. So floor's open and yours.
Hello everyone, hello dear colleagues and counterparts. My name is Nasriddin Lafazola. I'm representing with my colleague Richard Bonsal today, UNESCO and JP. It's Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. We are based in India. And here we are today. Very honored to see on this table and be part of this panel discussion. Oweis, thank you for bringing up this very crucial element regarding the youth which are marginalized, which come from the disadvantaged background. I think it's very important to shed the light on informal education systems, because during our discussion, I have heard a lot about social inclusion, multilateral collaboration, access of sustainability courses for education institutions, higher education institutions, right? Let's not forget that the number of the youth which are attending universities currently are more than 250 million. But we have 1.9 billion youth in the world. How about the rest? It's very crucial to know and understand that informal education also exists. And non-homogeneous nature of youth currently, the biggest youth population in the world, the marginalized representatives of it, they also need attention, equal attention. So we have to be more inclusive. We have to pay more attention to equity, and we should join our forces towards this representatives of youth. So I just wanted to highlight that more we have such tables, more we have this kind of brainstorming, and we include youth, better we understand the challenges they are facing right now. So this is my comment. Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues.
So much. Because we're really running behind time. So I will kindly ask the participant to limit it to 1 minute of your suggestion and really focus on down-to-earth call to action. So we'll move to the second one.
I really appreciated Fabio's cynicism, and we need to throw cold water on our faces to wake up to this. It's a bad analogy to use at a youth summit, but it seems to me that universities need to be the adults in the room when we're talking about these issues, because if we keep talking about this number of 1.5, we're going to lose sight of trying to mitigate anything that goes beyond that, and actually coming up with solutions to problems that are surely going to happen. We're going to reach that cliff and probably another cliff and another cliff. So if states and political actors can't play that role, specifically beyond just saying that youth should be involved and universities should be involved, what are concrete actions that these institutions can play to really prepare us for what's about to happen?
Thank you so much. We also learned before this event that we have 2 volunteers who actually joined us today, and we will also like to have their engagement as well. So the first one is Miss Han Wang, who's representing Student in Transition and a young researcher, and I'll give her the floor very quickly for a minute for her call to action.
Thank you. Sihawan from China, and I'm a student in grade 11. It is my great honor to join everyone at ECO of Young's Forum, and specifically at this event on higher education institution. Over the past 10 years, I have done 4 different research on climate change, and especially with one on plastic or food wrap materials. I have successfully submitted my proposal for the transformation of operation to the local government, who have adopted my recommendation and change grocery store food wrap materials into different color code labels to indicate their suitability and ensure people's health. As a student in transition moving into higher education, I hope that in order to continue my research journey and contribute to international order negotiation in regard to climate change, I advocate for 3 actions taken by young people in higher educations. Recommendation 1, as a teenager, we should always keep it in our mind that we need to take social responsibility. Second, as young generations, we should develop our awareness and ability in scientific research. We need to be adept at identifying problems in daily life, analyzing them scientifically, and find paths to solve these problems. We can obtain objective and reasonable solutions by scientifically understanding the cause of the problems. Moreover, from my perspective, as young people, we should have dreams that towards our lifelong efforts. From my experience, I strongly believe that engineers should connect our dream with our social environment and work together. Our personal efforts will finally make a big difference. Thank you.
So much. We are now heard from student in transition. If you don't mind, before we move to other audience, we'd like to give to another student in transition who actually transited out of higher education already and has been the winner of UN SDG Action Award and working on climate policy analysis now. Like to hear.
Thank you so much. As I have another meeting in Youth, so I will try to be short. I have 3 key points that I want to address. My name is Hatim Asmak. I'm ambassador of the African Youth Climate Hub. That's an initiative that was launched in the United Nations in 2019 to empower young people in the African continent, how they can combine the perspective of sustainability and climate change also into the higher education institutions. And this can be my point to answer the question. We are asking for the involvement of universities and also higher education, but how we can do that. In that point, the African Youth Climate Hub tried to open the universities for young people in the African continent to contribute through their entrepreneurship work, and also the university can host them their ideas and also to have a kind of incubators for their ideas. So this is one of the point. And also second point, in Morocco, we have the Foundation Mohammed VI for protection of environment. This is a royal foundation and is chaired by Her Royal Highness Princess Dalla Hasna. We arrived to a maturity that we need to have an academic hand to support young people to understand sustainability and sustainable development. Let me give you one example. We have 2 kind of people. We have the private sector that want to came back to the university and to understand sustainability and to apply that knowledge into their daily work, but they don't have the opportunity how we can do that. So through this academic hand, we give them the space how they can understand the sustainability principles. And also we have another point is the young people who don't have a diploma, how they can go and enter to the higher education and get some short courses to understand sustainability and also to understand climate change practices, and also to how they can build themselves and their skills and to invest in their knowledge. I think this is also an important point. The second key point is in Morocco we have in the world we had the COVID-19, but in Morocco we had last year the earthquake. So that 2 actions give me a moment to rethink how we can
how we can have a generation that really equipped and ready to address the challenges through the university. And two, I think 3 days ago in UAE, we had some natural hazards. So how the young people in the Arab region and the African continent can use this opportunity of the higher education and passing by the university to test the ideas, to also define and implement the ideas that they have into, and use the university and use the university as a lab to test that ideas that they have. This is moving, I think, from theory to practice. So this is 3 years, maybe, or 4 years for a bachelor. So how we can use this 4 years to implement not only a diploma, but how we can have a profile of a person that can lead and pave the way for a sustainability. The last point that I want to mention, through my experience, my bachelor was my thesis in bachelor was about the new conception of climate diplomacy, and in the master about how multilateral diplomacy can facilitate the efforts to address loss and damage. And I was addressing the loss and damage mechanism, the fund that was approved in the COP, in the last COP in UAE. And this gave me one lesson, that if we focus using academia and using the profile, the human capital, and we bring this into practice, we can get insights. And this is how I see from my point of view as a young person that was participating since the COP in Paris, in Marrakesh, and arriving to UAE. I think we need just to combine what we have into the discussion that we have in Youth ECOSOC Forum and today, and bring it to the heart of the universities, and to share and connect people with this opportunities. As my colleague said, that there is some other people that they deserve to be today, but maybe lack of finance or something, or to sponsor their participation, but how we can give them the opportunity to be in the same level of knowledge and understanding that we have today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fatima. I think maybe we have observed that from our participants' answers, sometimes it's common, but sometimes it's more questions to everyone to further brainstorm and further act. We'll take 3 more from the floor, and we're gonna take 1 from the Zoom call. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you hold on. Okay, yeah. We already have the question identified from Zoom. So the question is, how can we collaborate or generate a network of university in global project? And at this point, I would like to invite our colleague from the UN Office of South-South Cooperation to elaborate more on this. The floor is yours, Didi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily and friends. This is really interesting, and then so vibrant, so young panel in the conference room. It's I think marks a historical moment because all the UN conferences kind of matured. But then this is very interesting topic, and then I'm very privileged to be here, and then as one of the partner on the Screening Higher Education Initiative with our UNESCO Institute. And then our office carries a very important and most beautiful, I think, mandate is for South-South cooperation and partnership for the goal. So SDG 17, we carry it. And then this is the SDG goal, I think, not competing with anyone, not competing with any agency, but we collaborate. We offer networks, we offer policy support, advocacy, and also with some seed funding as we engage in this greening higher education initiative. So this is one of the very commitment we support the developing countries and use participants and use globally, especially from developing countries. And then for the specific question, how we are promoting and supporting a network for meaningful youth engagement in our global trust funds and projects, I think we can say maybe 3. One is to promote youth engagement, youth participation to close the generational gap in terms of policy frameworks, in defining the project focus, trust fund focus, and also to ensure a percentage of our trust fund investment and funding allocated to support meaningful youth engagement, for instance, this one, greening higher education. And secondly, I think also to ensure in our projects and funds supported activities, like the training, capacity building, also the competitions, and also all the dialogues, projects, focuses have a meaningful youth focus. So our funds in the future, not yet right now, but we're working on it. We hope to introduce this youth thematic window to dedicated for youth engagement. And third, I think this is one of the recent strong initiative led by the Youth Envoy, the UN, the new Youth ESG, is to promote a youth workforce at the UN in the system. So in our trust fund and projects, we are introducing a youth marker to mark all this youth engagement and also to promote a youth, kind of below 35-year-old youth participation, UN volunteers, young participation, JPOs in the project and fund implementation in the activity on the ground, through volunteers, through also different contractual models and internships. So I think these are three ways we are doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elina, for bringing us back to the focus of young people being at the core of the activities with higher education, hosting more than 200 million students. There's a lot of responsibility, a lot of potentials for the next work to flourish and to further support the largest population of stakeholders in higher education. So we'll move to the three participants on the floor now, and then we'll move to the next round.
Thank you. My name is Mohammed Khalid. I'm from Saudi Arabia. As a young climate entrepreneur and founder of a climate tech startup that aims to combating desertification and restoring ecosystem at scale in one of the harshest urban climate in the world, in Saudi Arabia. I found inspiration to build this startup when I was 7 years old. My father taught me to plant a small seedling in the middle of a desert. And 20 years later, when I visited it, was a majestic tree standing in front of me. And this inspiration from my father led to building a company that is helping greening multiple cities in my country. This proves that inspiration, when it's instilled at a young age, will definitely bear its fruits in the future. And that's why it is very vital to engage students at an early stage, to get them involved in exploring climate challenges and emphasize on the importance of their role in solving a global challenge, starting from a local scale. That's why one of the initiatives that we pledged upon ourselves as a startup is to hire interns, paid interns, and to help us develop our technologies, work in communication, storytelling, reporting, and measurement. And I'm happy to say that we consistently have 25% of our workforce university interns. Many of them later either built their own climate venture or joined a company working in a climate-related job roles. We also signed an agreement we signed multiple agreements with 5 universities to plant 1.5 million trees in those university campuses and engage students as well in order to spread awareness. And finally, we're working with 2 universities in the field of research and development, in soil field, ecosystem restoration, water management, native trees, and we're working with students as well to help develop that, giving the local geoclimatic context. These are only some examples on how we're taking upon ourselves as youth to even inspire more youth to get involved in climate action and promote innovation from early on. Just as my father instilled the seedling in me, I want to pass this on and hopefully plant this seed in everyone in the room to inspire them and hopefully the future generation in order to lead a prosperous future. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Elina. I'm from Haiti and I'm a member of the UNESCO SDG4 Europe Incident Network, but also the founder of Arts Haiti Inc., which is an organization based in Haiti that is using creativity and technology to educate youth aged from 16 and 25 years old. One thing I wanted to mention after listening to all the conversation was one thing that I'm doing in Haiti, for example, is we have clubs in multiple universities. There are creative democracy club where you use creativity and technology to connect whatever field the student are to the to their community. So if you're you're studying medicine law, you can use your knowledge and get involved in your community and also understand more of democratic rights. So I mentioned that to show you, especially the youth, most of the time we are waiting for the head of the university or for someone hired to start the initiative where we can start it ourselves. This initiative started on my side as I started working in the student life of my university. And after I got to be the student president of the life of the university and propose this project. And I believe this is what we need more for the youth to step up and propose our own project and try to do our own thing instead of always waiting for somebody else to do it for us. I think that's when we will get the most result and inspire more people and actually get our seat on the table when things are happening.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatima Zana. I'm from Nigeria. So I'm very honored to be here at this table. I kind of feel intimidated hearing a lot of stories that is actually close to my heart. I'm coming from Nigeria, especially from Borno State, where it's known to be affected by Boko Haram. So when you spoke about the marginalized youth, it came to me that I became a youth advocate because I grew up in that state where we couldn't have access to education. I had to leave my own state to another to study. Growing up, I came up with a lot of people more intelligent and more, let me say, more potential in them than me. But without that opportunity, they couldn't come out because they feel like in Borno, we already have that shared resistance to education. You feel like, yes, I'm affected already. You find a 13-year-old child being a mother at just 13. So that affected me a lot. I had to leave the States, but I came back after I graduated from software engineering, and I decided if I could make a change, why not start from me? So I became a youth advocate, brought up innovation with empowering women in tech. Since I studied software engineering, I built up an LMS, which we were able to empower more than 500 youths. Hearing their stories, and after they've gotten their course, they were so happy. They felt like, yes, I'm among the community now. So they felt included. If we were not able to come out and bring them out, they wouldn't be able to come out of that shell. So I personally believe that being here today really opened me up to a lot of things. I've already taken one, which is climate change. I haven't added that to my foundation, but it's something I'll add as an example to other youths to carry on. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. We can see that everyone is very happy and stimulated, and we want to reassure everyone that we're hosting UNESCO IESALC is hosting 4 workshops on greening higher education this year, together with our partner University of Helsinki. So we will be able to continue this conversation across the year. Let's now move to the next session of our event, which is really focusing on commitment and initiatives. So with that said, I would please like to invite Mr. Erik and Mr. Francesc to stand up. And as we move into this part to discuss the UNESCO IESALC National Geographic Learning Collaboration on greening higher education. So I will first give the floor to Mr. Erik to really delve into National Geographic Funding's work on greening education and the foundation for this collaboration.
Terrific. So thank you very much. We're really pleased to be here together as fellow travelers on this greening education mission. For National Geographic Learning, we have partnerships with 20 ministries of education around the world. Through these partnerships, many of them are long-standing. We reach 88 million students with our curriculum, and 7 million teachers are inspired to bring the world to the classroom and the classroom to life. So we have a tremendous commitment in the global education space. We bring the power of the National Geographic brand and content and all of our explorers and all the work that they do. We haven't done so much when it comes to higher education learning or teacher education. So we're particularly interested in this partnership, this idea of bringing everything that we do around curriculum to future teachers, to current teachers, to be part of this introduction to greening education initiative. And we look forward to taking the first steps today by signing a contract. Thank you.
Well, now the floor is Francesc.
Well, thank you. I mean, first of all, I would like to beg your pardon because I have the impression that we have been hijacking you. I mean, you have been with us for such a long time, and it's really our privilege. I think that, you know, what you have heard from youth, from colleagues, I mean, has been really useful because it's food for thought in many respects. Now, when it comes to UNESCO, I think that we have a double vision when it comes to greening higher education. On the one hand, we would like to see that all and every university president, university rector in Global South higher education institutions have a strategic plan for greening the activities, the operations of their universities. I think that's one side. But the other side is at the other end of the spectrum. Our vision is also states that we would like to see that every student in higher education in the Global South, no matter the program, no matter the subject of the course she is following, will always learn something about sustainability and about greening, no matter which profession, which research, which academic field, you know. So she really begins, you know, to understand that as a professional, as a researcher, as a member of the academia, future member of the academia, she has to be really committed to sustainability. Now, it's not only a vision. We are also concerned about the way in which we have to translate this vision into reality. And let me give you a funny story. 3 years ago, a newly appointed university president in a well-known university decided that he would support strongly the greening of its operations. So he decided to start by suppressing all red meat from the university cafeteria. The weekend after, university students reacted by organizing a barbecue of red meat, of course, because simply it's not only about having a clear goal or a clear vision, it's also how to implement this. And in a university, you need to talk also to the students and see which is the best way to move forward. Now, when it comes to this partnership, I think that in National Geographic, we have found the best partner, you know, because it's going to help us to translate that vision into reality by helping us to produce high quality educational materials that would help not only university presidents to understand exactly what's the meaning of greening higher education and how to do it in a very short piece of video, but also, you know, increasingly to promote educational materials for making sure that every teacher in higher education, particularly in the Global South, learns something from one of the best, if not the best, content producer when it comes to our planet and the living beings in this planet that we would find. So that's you. So thank you very much, Erik, for joining us.
Thank you very much. To officialize this very exciting launch of partnership, we'll now present the most beautiful photo I've ever seen in my life. We'll have everyone take a look. We'll present the two contract to the two representatives from National Geographic Learning and UNESCO IESALC, and have our MOU signed to officialize this partnership.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Very, very formal, almost like exchanging ball at a wedding. Thank you so much to the leadership of UNESCO IESALC and to the leadership of National Geographic Learning under Dr. Pedró and Mr. Erik. The significance of this partnership really highlights. It's really highlighted, and there's several folds. First, it really allows us to link to realistic context, and then with upgraded visual content. And the second one, which is one of the reasons why we hope to do the launch event here, is to really create this spirit of multi-stakeholder partnership, because we need everyone. We need everyone here on this journey. We need everyone to take action, and we need everyone to show our commitment to the greening initiatives through very down-to-earth actions and projects. And with that said, thank you so much again. And we also want to thank all the partners who are also here with us today, who have worked with us, who are going to work with us, and I'm sure who will work with us for a very long time. So with that said, I will now want to give the floor to Dr. Serena McCalla, who's yes. I will allow Dr. Serena McCalla to introduce herself, because I think that's gonna be a more exciting version than if I introduced her, to really help us present some of the key takeaways from the event and pave our ways forward. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I think that the 3 days and today especially was overwhelmingly wonderful, but also bringing attention to the fact that we have much to do. I am Serena McCalla, I'm a National Geographic Explorer, but I primarily work with students as a research mentor, and we work together with high school and early college students on authentic research projects. So that is my primary role. And today it was my pleasure, in the presence of ECOSOC and UNESCO, to really see if the mission of empowering youth is still on the forefront of everyone's mind and potentially going to help us to solve some of the problems. One of the things that I do specifically is work with students on research projects of their own interest. I have a slide. Can we sure. Click? That's okay. So I work with students in research laboratories and virtually. We do a lot of bioinformatics, computer science, AI, machine learning research. And my students, and a lot of things we touched upon, so many people today, and I'm kind of charged with closing the session. And I heard so many things that were actually in my presentation that you guys didn't know, but you were saying that really touched me again, because I was saying, we're all in the same mind frame. We're all thinking the same things. We just now have to do things to make sure that we can push the needle a little further and a little faster. So my students work on research projects, and they compete with their research at international and national competitions, one being the Regeneron Science Talent Search and the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair. At those competitions, high school students who are doing authentic research compete for cash prizes. And two of my last set of students actually won, top 3 out of 1,800 students internationally. 80 countries are represented at these competitions, and they walk away with $50,000 cash. And I heard, that some of the issues is funding and money and people not having access to sit at the table. And I was thinking about it, and I said, my students are constantly winning money. Over the last 14 years, we've won millions of dollars. The students have won millions of dollars with their research in these competitions. And then it began to dawn on me, which we can go to the next slide, that even though I've been doing research for the last 14 years, and I do believe that my students' grit, passion, and motivation is helping to change the world. And as you saw with some of the students here at ECOSOC, that they're doing the same things. I think that we need to bring attention to some of the problems, and I'm still going to end on a positive note, but some of the problems are, David, the gentleman I'm standing with to the left, brilliant idea. He had a brilliant project where he was trying to create glass that would actually keep heat in buildings and allow cold air to also be retained based upon the seasons. And he was brilliant. He came up with this idea. He worked with a researcher, with me on this project. The student in the middle, her name was Jessica Wong. She was my first high school student published in Nature. So she was a high school student published in Nature magazine for neuroscience. Her background is computer science and mathematics. And then the three students that are with me in the final picture underneath Inspired had projects. The first young lady was working on a project to remediate fast fashion waste, and especially the leaching of chemicals that is caused by fast fashion into water. And the young man to my side is doing research in bioinformatics and cancer, and the girl to the left actually had cancer and was also studying cancer using omics. All of these students, brilliant students, went on to university, some of the best in the country, Harvard, Stanford, and UPenn. But what they all did is that they left science. Every student there has a career. David is an entrepreneur. His company has made over $30 million last year. Jess is in finance. And the other three students are currently in college, and all of them changed their majors to business and finance and law. And I was taken aback because these are my brightest minds, the kids who are taking a life by the reins in high school, but once they hit uni, they walk away from science. How do we solve the problems without addressing the fact that we're losing our best minds in science? So one of the big things I started to ponder was that we have to figure out what's keeping the kids that stay in science, and why are the other ones leaving? Well, the ones that are leaving is pretty obvious. They're mostly leaving for money. And a lot of my students are immigrants, the United States first generation, and they came here to make money. And they are, right? But we have to keep in mind that how are we going to solve the problems in restoring our environment, our oceans, the world, if we lose all of our best minds in science? If we go to the next slide. So I studied my students, and I realized there were 5 main takeaways that kept the students who stayed in science. First, I had to challenge their why. Why are you studying science? Why are you here? What is motivating you to continue in the hard struggle of investing in science and research? 2, patience, because we live in a society now where everything is fast and furious, and I need it now. So we have to train them to believe that your goals will come to fruition if you just wait, and that you have a stepwise approach to achieving your goals. 3rd, prioritize the marginalized groups. It's so true. I heard it so many times today. There are so many women and groups and people of color and ethnic groups that are being ignored, and we're missing out on key components of science because they're not at the table. Their innovations are lost for their group and their members, and we have to change that. 4th, perseverance. It's so hard to do good work. And if we train our students that it's okay to fail, which I think that that's really a difficult concept at the university level, even in the high school level, we don't let students fail. It's okay to make mistakes. And if we train them to believe once you fail, it's a learning opportunity and not a mark against you, they persevere. And then lastly, purpose. The big takeaway has to be that this is their future. Everything we're doing wrong and every burden that we've left and passed on to them, they will have to work on. And if we don't listen to them and realize that what they're saying, what's important to them, we have to now make the future brighter for them. And we have to support them to pave the way for a more sustainable world. And I think we have the leaders in the room listening, and now we have to act for them, with them. So thank you. I know it's late and we've been sitting for a while. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Serena. Well, what Dr. Serena just marked really is, it highlights a point that research does not just take place in higher education. And when it comes to the regard of greening higher education, we need people with different mentalities to join us. And with that said, while we would want to highlight that with the MOU that we just signed in between UNESCO, ECOSOC, and National Geographic Learning, we're actually creating an advisory board on greening teacher training and greening curriculum. So we can bring together different stakeholders from very diverse sectors, from academia, from industry, from civil society, and from other partners, so that all together we'll be able to drive this greening innovation, research, to share best practices and to mobilize resources towards the common goal of sustainable greening higher education ecosystem. And to close this session, I would want to give the floor back to Francesc, Pedró. Yes, to close this session, and also really great attitude, great gratitude to our very dear partners and co-host of this event, the UNOSSC of South-South Cooperation, and also many of our other partners, including University of Helsinki, National Geographic Learning, UNESCO SDG for Youth and Student Network, Education Above All, and UNICEF. So the floor is yours to close the session. Let's say goodbye.
No, I will be very, very quick. It is complicated to say so because I'm Mediterranean, so I mean. So anyway, but I would like to express my gratitude not only to the South-South Cooperation Office and United Nations, but also to the rest of panelists and of course to all participants. It is really, really very inspiring, to see so many young people, focusing their minds, their bright minds, into a sustainable future. And I think that today I'm requested to close this conversation, but I would say that when it comes to our partnership, this is the beginning of it. So I'm really glad to be happy. So thank you very much, and thanks again for being here. Thank you.
Thanks everyone, and goodbye.